and welcome to our live streaming event today with Real Talk. This is John Rawlings, your host, and I've got two, I think, really cool people in the house today to talk about our natural resources division. And I'm going to let them both take a second and introduce themselves and kind of give a background. It's been a little while for both of them to be on the live stream. So, Stefan, I'll start with you. Go ahead.
Hey John, good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the show. My name is Stefan Kalev. I'm the Natural Resources Manager with the City of Northport, and it's a pleasure to be on.
It's great to have you. So how long have you been with us?
I've been with this city for about 2 years and a half now. We are part of the Natural Resources team. As I mentioned earlier, it's a fairly new division that was established 2.5 years ago. And basically, it has been a fantastic journey so far. We've started many new programs, many new initiatives, and every day has been something new to offer. So I'm glad to be part of this adventure for sure.
Well, and I'm going to stick with you just for a second. And I want to jump over to Ryan. But why is it so essential for a city like ours to have a natural resources division?
We are a growing city, and as we grow, we change our environment. And it's very, very important to change this environment, so to speak, the right way or in a more balanced manner, excuse me, because with habitat, once gone, it's basically gone forever, and it's very difficult to replace a natural habitat, and therefore preserving or prioritizing our efforts towards saving some of those precious resources for present and future generations can really make a difference between good quality of life for our residents or troubles and issues that may come down the road with that habitat lacking. So, for that and many, many other reasons, having a natural resources staff team that's dedicated towards protecting these natural resources and balancing our development can make a huge difference for between a healthy city and a city that may do things inadvertently, so to say.
Yeah. So it really sets us up for, I think, some really cool insight that a lot of cities don't have, because a lot of them are already built out. So they're kind of, if they have a natural resources division, it's post event. We're kind of preemptively doing it. I'm going to slide up to Ryan real quick so he can get involved here a little bit. Uh, how you doing there, Ryan?
Doing great, sir. Thank you for having me today.
Awesome. So give a little background about yourself.
Okay, my name is Ryan Pieper. I'm the urban forester for the city of Northport. I was once upon a time the city arborist from '08 to about 2019, and had a wonderful opportunity, like you guys are saying, to join this young city and be a part of preserving what the natural essence is in this young city. Um, Stefan nailed it with the word balance. That's kind of what we're looking to do. I have my house. I love going to stores here. I welcome new businesses. I'm excited for what this city will become. But we have this wonderful opportunity with the Natural Resources Division to make sure it's going in the right direction.
It's fantastic. So I think you're both like very enthusiastic about the opportunity. Um, have you guys, either one of you, experienced this at any other place you worked where a young community like ours has this division and is working it, I think, to its fullest?
I must say that I have never experienced this type of work at this scale for a community that has so many opportunities. So before my journey here with the city, I was with Sarasota County, Charlotte County, state of Florida, and we're talking well established government structures with procedures in place and a lot of impacts throughout these areas has already occurred, and in a way there are many limitations of what can be done. Some of these larger entities are much more difficult to change, and it's a lot more challenging to implement a program that may improve the environment. If there is some environment left, in some cases there isn't much to work with, like how you said. So it's something that I would say is unique about Northport. We have a passionate community that cares about the environment.
Yes, we do.
Just 2 weeks ago, I was doing a cleanup, and so many people showed up, and that's what a community is. People really care about our city being cleaner, growing in a balanced way, and basically all of us thriving in it.
So you've got a list here that you guys put together of what we're going to talk about, and so I'm just going to go down the list because we've got at least 55 minutes of conversation.
Let's do it.
Who is there? Somebody in the background somewhere?
I've got a bit of a loud neighbor here.
Okay. All right. Just let him know we're getting some feedback.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
If you don't mind, John, I'll be right back in 20 seconds. I'll
All right.
let him know right now.
All right. Thank you. So let's talk about the proper root barrier and the barricade installation. Can you talk about that a little bit and kind of highlight what that is?
Absolutely, yes. So it's going to serve a couple different functions as we explore every site, whether it be a residential property or commercial property, larger scale development. The root barriers are going to be very important to protect the root system of the trees that we can preserve. It's really hard, when this city was first created, it was so low that almost every project has a lot of fill that comes in to bring that property up to get the proper drainage and flow of the water conveyance across the property. So any existing trees could be affected by that fill alone. So when we have those root barrier or root barricades, that's going to help ensure that any tree that we can preserve, if it's in the proper spot, that it will not be affected throughout that construction activity, and the fill that comes in will not suffocate that root system.
Go ahead.
So I was going to also say the barricades are typically put out to the drip line of the tree. That is the furthest extent of the tree's canopy, and
Yep.
it would point straight down would be the drip line of the tree. We understand that some of those barricades and barriers need to come in within that canopy a little bit, but as long as we're able to stay away from that tree's trunk the best we can, we want to definitely ensure that any machinery operating in the area would come in contact with that barricade first prior to bumping into the tree above ground.
It's really you're talking about the safety of the tree.
Yes, sir.
It very, very easily explained is that everything that you can do to protect that tree is what you guys are all about.
Yes, that's correct. We want to do this the balance as much of a balanced way as we possibly can. So just the concept of preservation has been something that's grown over the years. Say 20 years ago, it's just easier to wipe out the lot and just start from scratch. Well, that's not what we're interested in here in the city of Northport in general, or the Natural Resources Division. We want to explore every opportunity to preserve the existing environment and the existing trees and habitat that we have here now, not get 20 years down the road from here and say, shoot, we should have done something. Now we do have that opportunity, and done properly and in a balanced approach, we will have a big successful beautiful city in 20 years from now, too.
Well, let's talk about, and I think this kind of goes hand in glove, the landscape compliance for commercial properties, because I think this protection of the environment, the bigger trees, the things that we talked about just now, that crosses over into the commercial side, and I think that's a huge topic for a lot of people today.
It sure does. And if I may mention few words about that. So this weekend, I visited Naples with my family. And Naples is a beautiful city, lots of businesses, thriving community. And one of the first impressions that I've got is when I passed by many of these businesses, they had a beautiful hedge, well established canopy, functioning irrigation system, and you replicate that for each business, and all of a sudden you have a whole different appeal of this entire city, or a majority of it at least. And it's something that hasn't really been paid attention to, so to say, in Northport to the extent, in my opinion, that it should have. So Ryan, myself, and the Development Services Department, we have initiated a landscape compliance program where we would reach out to our businesses here within Northport, and we will identify potential deficiencies within their landscape. So as our community has experienced several storms, significant drought events, and all sorts of impacts, some of these landscaping habitats around our businesses have been lacking, and that's even a mild word in some cases. So we are starting to reach out to them and find ways to work with them on how they can reinvigorate their landscaping and how they can replant trees that were supposed to be there in the first place. Upon development, these businesses have agreed with the city to ensure that the landscaping around their property is maintained in good shape, and should be the case in perpetuity. So if a tree dies, it will be their responsibility to replant it. Well, there hasn't been any instrument or way to really regulate that in the past, but now there is. Now there is with the National Natural Resources team. We're dedicating time to oversee this process and reinvigorate many of these businesses. So several of them have already responded. They have planting projects in place starting in the next several weeks, more or less, irrigation repairs, and so forth. So we are hoping that over time our community will look quite different.
I think that that's fantastic. And how has the engagement been with our commercial side on that program?
Honestly, so far it has been great. Every entity that we have reached out to has
That's
been
great.
cooperative. They're willing to work with us. We did approach them in a friendly, proactive, constructive manner. Our goal is not to punish, but to find compliance. And we are able to work with them. We're able to provide our advice, our guidance. And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong. We've approached 12 entities as of now, and most of them have been more than willing and helpful to do the right thing. So far our impression has been just so pleasantly surprised to see opportunity to make these places better. And at the will of both the owner and natural resources.
I think that the one thing that we can all agree on is that there's a lot of pride that goes into being part of Northport. I think the way you handled it and the way you just said it, that Northport pride just got carried into projects that most people would have maybe fought against or delayed. I think your approach was fantastic because you said it. We don't want to punish. We want to encourage them to help us. I think anytime that you approach anybody with that, you're more apt to get the involvement that you need, which is, holy cow, how can we make our city softer? And you're right about Naples. I've been down there. I've driven that a lot, and it's amazing to see the difference. Now, are we ever going to be Naples? No, because we're not going to have the downtown strip like Naples, although Welland Park, and there's a lot of care that's going into Welland Park through the Natural Resources Division and Rick Severson. They're doing all the things they have to do for beautification. So did the Atlanta Braves. So did a lot of the home construction crews there. So that as we build out, it I love it because I see something totally different than a lot of communities have, and something totally different than what we have or have had. We've got you guys now, and truthfully, how hard is it to get a hold of you guys and learn from you? Is it difficult to get either one of you guys in an email or a phone conversation?
In my opinion, not difficult at all, John. We are a phone call away, 941-429-7033, or an email away, naturalresources@northportfl.gov. And if any resident is also near City Hall, they can stop by the office. If sometimes we may be out in the field, but if we're here, someone will be speaking with the citizen or professional to help them, guide them, answer any questions that they may have. We really try to be accessible. Just a few weeks ago, Ryan and I did a little seminar in front of a group of landscape professionals and their landscape committee at Grand Paradiso at Welland Park. They simply asked for our expertise. We gave them our availability. They gave us theirs, and we were there and made it happen. So the more we engage, the happier we are. Just this month alone, we at events, city events, we engaged close to 900 residents, just the Natural Resources Division alone, which I think is great.
It is. Anytime that you can reach out and touch the citizens in that regard, it's a change of information. I know a lot of my listeners, they get kind of torqued when we say misinformation. How about the right information? It's not misinformation; it's the right information, and coming straight from you. These are things that you're implementing. And Sean had a question about the tree fund, but I'm going to kind of couple that with because he talked about land acquisition, and that is one of the things that your key talking points are, the land acquisition program, and he coupled that with, can the tree fund be used for that? So I'm going to leave that as something that you can answer, on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, the tree fund has been now renamed as the Environmental Protection Fund. So the goal here is to use these funds that may come from either code enforcement cases, tree permitting fees, or tree mitigation fees. All of these would go into the Environmental Protection Fund. And now the scope of the potential spendings from this fund has been expanded. So acquiring undeveloped parcels and protecting them in perpetuity is one of these potential scopes. Last year, City Commission has approved $2.5 million from the Environmental Protection Fund that can be utilized towards acquiring land. And we, the Natural Resources Division, are in charge of the process. There are certain types of lands that we are prioritizing our efforts. Sensitive land, land that supports listed species, land that's providing connectivity or wetland habitat that provides floodplain protection. These are some of our priorities, and we have emphasized on what would be the best, so to say, bang for the buck with these funding, and are in process right now of reaching out to some of these owners to hopefully acquire and preserve a small piece of Northport.
Fantastic. I'm going to throw a couple at Ryan here real quick. I'm going to give you three, but I'm going to group them together. We want to be a tree city. We kind of are a tree city. I think we have more trees than most. We definitely have more parks than a lot. So I want to put the tree city status, the quarterly tree giveaway, since they're all related to trees, and the ongoing tree planting efforts. Those are three major conversations, but I think they can be grouped together. Ryan, how you feel about that?
I feel it's been a wonderful opportunity for us to engage with the community and really put those tree fund dollars to good use back into the community. That was what the whole intention of the way the permit structure is kind of incentivized or disincentivizes clearing of property, is to incentivize preservation. Where you're unable to do so and you impact our environment, then that's going to be offset with the mitigation fees. So when we're able to acquire these properties or go and reforest certain areas or bring shade initiatives to parks, reestablishing canopy along our boulevards that were really devastated from hurricanes, no matter what it is, that is the intent of that mitigation up front, to collect it and reinvigorate the city's natural resources. So we're able to do that. You mentioned a couple, the ongoing tree planting efforts at parks and public spaces such as City Hall Boulevard, anywhere throughout the city where we can put a tree. That's where I'm looking to get that dollar into a tree investment that only appreciates over time. So that's going to be wonderful. Another way, I can't go planting on private property, and that's going to be 90% of the city of Northport is private property.
It is.
So just this past Friday was actually National Arbor Day.
Yep.
So we had a tree giveaway here held in the back of City Hall where we gave away almost 200 trees to the community. And we're not talking little saplings. We're going 7-gallon potted trees that are already at a pretty good height for establishment's sake.
Alice White had to be doing backflips.
She was, yes. We actually were able to honor her on Earth Day last week, where we nominated, or the city nominated, its Greenest Citizen, and she just so happened to be the recipient of the 2026 Greenest Citizen Award, where we did.
I don't know that you could get much greener than Alice White.
Exactly. When I learned of her name, I was like, oh, yeah, that kind of sells itself, really.
Yeah, it
so
does.
We're able to plant a tree and a plaque out here at City Hall with her name and honor. So that was wonderful to be able to do that for her in recognition. And you mentioned Tree City USA. This is actually the 25th recognition that the city has received. So the Greenest Citizen Award has been going on since 2010. I'd say about 2017, we started planting the tree and the plaque for the recipients of the award. Yep. So it being the 25th Tree City USA recognition, we went back and planted 7 trees for those individuals that were not initially given a tree. So that was kind of nice to be able to recognize and memorialize them here at City Hall. So yeah, it was really cool to see some of those faces show up and attend the ceremony, coupling with Alice White and able to celebrate her latest and greatest achievements.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So along those lines, Jeremy asks, and thanks for listening in, Jeremy. Chuck, I'll get to you in a second, but any extra trees from Friday's, it really Saturday's giveaway, wasn't it?
It was Friday evening.
Friday evening. Okay.
Yes. So we gave away, we had 250. We have given away about 200, just over 200 of those. We do actually have a couple left over. So Jeremy, if you're inquiring, you can reach out to me directly. My direct number is 941-429-7064. And I'll be available to meet with you and get you a tree if you're interested, since you were in fact a Greenest Citizen very recently. Yeah.
Jeremy's awesome.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw this out there. Chuck English says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Do you have a list of lands that you consider environmentally sensitive, please?"
I can take this one. So we do have a list of parcels that we are prioritizing for the land acquisition program. And we also have, of course, we know where our state parks are around the city. We know where our city environmentally sensitive lands are as well. And it's Mother Nature, our animals, they don't really ask if an area is environmentally protected or not, sensitive or not. If they're able to use it, they are there. There's less and less habitat available for some of our wildlife, which is challenging, but we do have a plan, and in a way, we need to do the best with what we have available. I also wanted to add, John, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Ryan has been doing a fantastic work leading some grant opportunities as well. So that's just another way to make our city a bit greener, where we utilize, for example, state funding or federal funding, bringing these funds towards our community. Over the past year, we have been nominated for just about $600,000 worth of projects, and utilizing these funds is something that's takes decent chunk of our time here, but it's so important to get us more with what we have. So hopefully that answers the question and adds another perspective as well.
So I'm going to throw in some kudos across the board, because I think effectively we have some amazing grant writers in our town. We also find, I think, the most strategic play for our dollars with the grants that we are getting. And I mean that across the board, because anytime that you can double your money or triple your money from a grant, that means you're doing more for the citizens of Northport and the city. And in that order, because I don't think that you work for the city. I think you actually work for the citizens. And they're all going to agree with that in some way, shape, or form. But it's really the focus of the citizens and the natural resources that we have, and trying to keep them vibrant, along with, and I agree with Chuck, it isn't just about trees. You guys aren't just about trees. You're a natural resources division. Can you give an umbrella conversation about what that means versus, because we've spent a lot of time on trees, but there is much more involved in what you do than just trees.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are many aspects of natural resources, from the air we breathe, the water we use, our environment, that the park we visit, the animals we might encounter when we go fishing, when we are out in nature. Even at home, we still interact with nature in so many ways.
Yep.
Let's say if we have several trees within our vicinity, our AC works less during the summer. The ambient temperature is lower. It can be up to 15 degrees lower if you have trees around your neighborhood instead of our city becoming a concrete jungle, so to speak. So there are many ways in which each of us interacts with nature. Numerous studies have proven the many benefits of how nature impacts our life in a positive way. It also impacts the economic value of our properties in many ways.
It does.
And so it's it's one of the most complex fields of science, let's say environmental science, because it takes so many elements into account, from the microorganisms all the way to the macro scale picture of the environment and everything in between. So natural resources really encompasses a lot, and our goal is to prioritize to find where's the greatest need and to concentrate our limited resources with how we can impact things for the better, to where, as Ryan mentioned earlier, development's a bit more balanced, or progress happens in a bit more balanced way. So from our air quality monitoring station that we have here at City Hall, that we would like to expand in the near future, that provides real-time data, to the water quality testing that we do on monthly basis, um, from our canal system and Myakkahatchee Creek, to our tree incentivizing efforts, where we try to save any tree that can be saved, whether through incentivizing or education or communication simply, to ensuring that our listed species are protected where all the state and federal guidelines are met. And often we get feedback, let's say from the state, from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, of how much they appreciate what we do, because in some cases they don't have all the resources to um, be everywhere at the same time. So it's something that we can assist in a way as a local entity. And yeah, there's just so many ways to make a positive difference, and it really is one tree at a time, one gopher tortoise at a time. Um, you name
They're
it.
not. They're
So
not fast. You got to catch them.
they are not fast. You got to catch them, and if which, please don't do that. But if they are to be relocated, that can be a costly process. So we understand that aspect of why some people may be economically challenged by these policies, but we believe that there's a good reason for each of these rules.
So I'm going to ask you now. I'm going to drop down to the bottom of the list because I think it's appropriate. What's our scorecard?
Yeah, so the environmental scorecard, it's a tool that we came up with a bit of inspiration by our environmental advisory board that we have here in Northport. And they suggested that we need to do better in relaying where we are as a city to the best of our knowledge regarding certain aspects of our environment, from canopy coverage, water quality, air quality, habitat quality, endangered species, and efforts by the Natural Resources Division. These are a few of the criteria. So my team and I, we did assess this idea. It was approved by city commission, and our city manager directed us to pursue it, which we did. And we basically identified ways to be more transparent. So it's a study that we do once per year. It's done internally by our staff, and we identify how are we doing for this year. So we use variety of resources that are available and that are kind of scattered all over the place, and we put them all into one simple document that's easy to understand. It grades our work, and we really are trying to be as objective as possible using some statistical methods or our best ability to be as neutral and fair with our assessments. And it's something that we are providing as a tool to our community. So we just started working on our next environmental scorecard for year 2025. A lot of the data gets published in within a delayed
Right.
cycle. So
Like your
we
taxes,
have to
it's
wait for a bit.
in arrears.
Yeah, exactly. But nevertheless, we're expecting to have the environmental scorecard for 2025 sometime in September, and then this will be available to our citizens as well.
And we really didn't have, before we had the natural resources division, I don't think we really had a scorecard, did we?
Nope, that's a
That's
new
shaking of the
effort.
head. That you didn't even hesitate. You went into the no right away. How important is that for us? Seriously.
Well, I think it's important because not only we can identify where we are, but we can also identify trends. And the method of calculating the score for different parameters is consistent. So if we see that we're going down for a certain parameter, that's something that would be a flag for us, and we, will need to identify if we can do better. But I would say it's quite important, and it brings transparency and hopefully improves trust between our residents and what we do here.
Well, those are two really strong words, and I'm a believer that we are doing that within City Hall at our best ability. And I agree with Chuck. He says the natural resources is an outstanding team. I think that we have outstanding teams throughout, but I also have talked to you guys enough that I'm excited about what we're doing. This is a unique opportunity for our city to be different up and down the coast from a lot of our neighbors. You said you went down to Naples. Naples is established. Naples is designed a little different than what we are.
Right.
But what you saw down there is doable here. It's just going to take the work that you guys are doing, even 12 at a time, going out and talking to the current commercial guys that you're talking to. I would love to have you guys come back on in sometime in the future and bring a couple of those guys on and talk about the importance of working together. I think that would be a cool aspect, because we have a lot of good businesses here, local. They're very focused on what they do, but bringing the softer side of Northport into their environments, I think there's a lot to be said about that. And I'm gonna transition that into some Florida friendly plantings, because there are a lot of people that move here and think you can plant anything here. And they find out differently. So we talk about Florida friendly plantings, and then also guide them on where they can find some information.
So Florida friendly, I would say, is equal parts planting, education, and just application also. So Florida Friendly plants are ones that are going to be pest, drought, and water tolerant, or pest, drought, and frost tolerant. So that would be the selection when you're going to the landscape. What's the end result? I want a successful landscape. So you're going to want to, because this is such an area of extremes. We have really hot summers, and believe it or not, it does get cold here. We had a unseasonable stretch there where we were freezing there for almost 2 weeks. And you can see the effects of that in the landscape now, all the browning mangoes and things that were burnt. So we can learn from this also, where we're going to go that next round of replacement plants. What didn't work in our landscape? So when I say it's equal parts application, also, you don't want to plant, let's say, a rubber tree underneath the eave of your house where you're having to cut it in half every year and throw that into our Florida landfills. If we can have the right tree in the right place, and trees that don't require tons and tons of water, lots and lots of fungicides and herbicides and chemicals that we're just putting into our environment, then that's a better approach moving forward. And then the educational aspect of Florida Friendly. When we go to these schools, it's amazing how smart and mindful and savvy our next generation has become. 20 years ago, green was just like, what is that? That's just some kind of buzzword. But now it has really permeated into this community. And we have some really passionate individuals that don't just sit on the sidelines. They get involved and do their part to educate the community. And that's kind of what we are as a division, the Natural Resources Division.
Yep.
We want to be a resource to this community for anything. If it's any questions at any time, please email, call, come in and see us. We are here to serve this community, and we are, in fact, very passionate individuals ourselves. And I love the opportunity to educate anybody from anywhere in the country or in the world. They find themselves here in Southwest Florida, and it's challenging to have a successful landscape because of the extremes. So another wonderful resource that I would like to point the community towards is IFAS, which is University of Florida's agricultural extension.
And they do an amazing job.
Oh, man, it's incredible the amount of information available right from your desktop, right here. You can look into any bug, any fungus, you name it, they've got it available for you online.
And get help.
And get help, yes. And that's what we're here for too. So anything that we can do to help, more than willing and excited to be able to do so.
Well, and I've got a lengthy question and that's why I moved you on the screen. I put myself on the bottom so I could get covered up. What can homeowners, and this is across our city because we're still less than 50% build out, so we have this problem everywhere. What can homeowners do to deal with neighboring properties that with only vegetation, no structures, absentee landowners, not really absentee, they're just not here because they're still paying their taxes, hopefully, and have invasive species like Brazilian peppers and intruding onto homeowners' properties. That you could drive up and down the streets in Northport and see it almost every street.
Yes, those Brazilian peppers are an ongoing challenge and always will be. It's just something that we have to deal with. Just like a lot of different exotic or invasive species, they want to take over the landscape.
They do.
It's going to be an uphill battle. When it comes to those neighboring properties, they are both privately owned. So it is technically a civil matter, but we do offer advice. We offer where it's coming over and causing damage or impeding accessibility, or even in the instance where it's a dead tree that poses a significant hazard to the neighboring home that lives there 365 days a year. They are not experiencing these problems that are emanating from the just vacant property. We recommend that the homeowner with the structure send a certified letter to the neighboring property indicating what the problem is, putting them on notice that it is in fact affecting your inability to utilize your property or is posing a significant hazard. So if God forbid something did happen, you put that neighboring property on notice and they are aware that they have a hazardous situation or an extreme growth that's affecting your ability to live on your property. You put them on notice and their inaction, if it were to cause any further damage, then you can point to an instance where this was brought to their attention. Their inaction now has caused me property damage. So you can kind of almost build a case right now instead of when it's already happened and then say, oh, well, they should have done something. Well, I didn't know. I live in Indiana or whatever. How am I supposed to know? And also in those instances, we can utilize the code enforcement division of the city of Northport. If it is uh, a nuisance, if it's one of those things where it's impeding accessibility, causing damage, or potentially hazardous situation, then we can send that property a notice as well from the code enforcement division.
And if I may add,
Please.
John, to what Ryan already said, because private property rights are so strong within our beautiful state, trespassing, any work done by a private entity on someone else's private entity would be considered trespassing. So there, I understand Jeremy's question and how you said it's such a common sight, and it's a challenge, but technically, officially, you can always trim to the property line, and you need to get the owner's permission if you are to go any further than that. Um, Code enforcement, there's a program, as Ryan mentioned, where we can provide some assistance with dead trees, but with Brazilian pepper trees, yes, they're quite a nuisance, and we don't really have any tools other than the owner may have the option to um, take action with against their neighbor or put them on notice or reach out to them. And I understand how sometimes you cannot even get a hold of them. Many of them are out of county, out of state, out of country, even. So it is a challenge. But the most that you can do is maintain or push them back. And if an experienced professional is involved, they may even be able to apply some spot spraying of approved herbicide only on the invasive plant to push it back. We certainly don't have a problem with that. So one less Brazilian pepper tree is a win for Northport. So,
So
but it's
I'm,
something that could be an option to worth exploring.
so I'm going to stay on the topic for a minute because Chuck English actually asks a really good question, and it goes along with the pepper tree plants.
Yeah.
How do we deal with the pepper tree plants along our waterways where we have control? What are we doing as a city? Um, are we do we have a program for that?
Well, we do have a department that maintains the areas adjacent to our canals, and this is our public works team. And I know that they're working diligently on pushing invasives back. It's just the massive scale of the challenge is what makes it tremendously difficult to maintain, let's say, Brazilian pepper trees. We have um, the probably a bit less than 100 miles of canals, if I'm not mistaken, within Northport alone. And you know how fast these trees grow and how quickly they outcompete our native habitat. So it's certainly a problem. They are there, but I know that the public works team deals with their control.
Well, Chuck is being Chuck, so I'll put his question up. Um, the issue of pepper tree plants is not just a problem for homeowners, but the city has a significant issue along the canals, which we just talked about, and waterways. Be the example first, which I think we're trying, but you guys can handle that one. But we both know that Brazilian peppers is a naturalized habitat.
Um, yeah, and that's a great point that Chuck is making. So we as natural resources, we have allocated $250,000 that we are utilizing towards invasive species
Mhm.
management and removal. On the grand scheme of things, it's far away from being sufficient, but it's something. And if prioritized wisely, can still make an impact. To Chuck's point, most likely we'll have Brazilian pepper trees here for
Forever.
the foreseeable future, if not forever. Maybe some bright mind will find a way to deal with them at scale, but it's a tremendous challenge. And yes, in a way, they're part of the native landscape. But on the other hand, just the way that they grow, the way that they outcompete, and the way that they impact and change the function of the habitat is what makes them so unpleasant, not just unpleasant, but also costly and impactful to our natural resources.
Let's go back. And I have to ask this question. Um, Brazilian pepper tree plants, were they always here?
Great question. They were not,
Yep.
and they have been introduced just like many
Yep.
other invasive species
Yep.
over the past 150 years in Florida. And it's just you have so many vectors of invasive species within the state. We are, by many people's opinion, the capital of invasive species, and you
We,
name it, we
we have
have
a
it.
great growing environment for all of them.
That's right. Unfortunately, we do. It's an ongoing challenge, and as there are different shifts of weather patterns that also does not help either, but it's just the name of the game. And I also wanted to mention to Chuck's question, removing Brazilian pepper trees needs to happen wisely, especially along sensitive habitats such as canal banks, for example, because removing them completely or uprooting them will certainly increase the erosion rates along these areas. So that's another challenge that's also worth considering.
Now we've kind of like I say this to people all the time. There's a consequence to every move that you make, and just because you don't want something doesn't mean there's a reason to take it out because you got soil erosion, you got different things that happen. And we've got rainy season that happens, and we've got active canals. I said this the other day with 80 miles of active canals, our city is different than everybody else's. There isn't another 80 miles of canal in the state of Florida, let alone in the United States. I we just don't have that. So our challenges across the board are totally different. And how do you guys work with public works to identify together the need to address our canals?
Well, there are many overlapping points, and they do a variety of projects that they get involved with, and they often seek our guidance and our expertise to assist them
Mhm.
throughout the permitting process, as well as to minimize their environmental impacts as much as possible. we find areas of interest where even with this land acquisition program, perhaps we can team up with them to invest our resources together towards either buying a larger property or obtaining a property that is of both of our teams' interest. So that's just one example. But yeah, basically on a daily basis, they're dealing with Mother Nature, and so do we.
Yep.
So when there's overlap, we are always working together as a team. And there are many moving parts. Sometimes we all get into our bubbles, so to speak, and we're busy on many levels. But when there's need, we're not afraid to reach out to each other.
You know, we tend to go from one extreme to the next. So we just went through a drought. It's kind of rainy season, not. So we're still dry. When rainy season hits, our canals are going to fill up. Our ponds are all going to fill up. There's different things that affect us across the board. You know, we're in this weird transition that work can't even be addressed the way, if we wanted to, we wouldn't do it right now, because we don't know what rainy season is going to bring with erosion, and that all has to be calculated, doesn't it?
It sure does. And as you said earlier, with water and our water resource, we are a feast and famine state. We get a lot during the rainy season and not as much as we need during the dry season. So many factors to be considered. As mentioned, sometimes the rainy season pattern changes, which is something that should be expected by each experienced project manager, I'm sure, but nevertheless poses tremendous challenges.
Right.
Sometimes you got to take it a project at a time with its unique features, locations. Sometimes there are ways to minimize the impact based on the factors from the environment. And yeah, you just have to do the best with what you have.
Fantastic. Well, we've ended our we've ended at 4. I'm 2 minutes past, but I really appreciate you guys both coming on. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that everyone likes and shares the video. Get it out to as many groups as you can, as many neighbors as you can. The more that we can educate our city and our surrounding areas, actually, that may be a new business or a new resident in our town someday. So you never know what draws people here. But our natural resources division, our public works division, our parks and rec, city hall, there's a lot of reasons to, one, move to Northport. There's also a lot of reasons to celebrate Northport. You guys do a great job, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Joan. We appreciate you as well.
Thank you. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next Monday at 3:05. And next Monday will be the police department, then the fire department the following Monday, then the commission, and then we're back to another representation from City Hall. So thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.